Question here from Tagon86. I'm getting worried about the future of console gaming when I see the rumored specs for PS6 and the next Xbox. They look very, very expensive to make, and Microsoft may not even subsidize their next console. TSMC 2nm and 3nm is much more expensive than 6nm. I would be surprised if PS6 ended up cheaper than the PS5 Pro. How will AAA game studios survive if we see a similar console customer base next gen? That's a pretty good question, because I do think the next consoles are going to be more expensive. I think Microsoft is basically now laying the groundwork with that recent Mashable interview with Sarah Bond. And on the Sony side, I do think they're going to be looking at a more affordable console-like device. But at the same time, the PlayStation 5 Professional is quite expensive with a relatively small 4nm die. So I do think that's going to be quite pricey as well. I think the thing which stands out to me, a couple of things, first of all, is that for decades, in terms of progression on electronics, you've kind of had a performance bump and cheaper processors, right? But I think it's more to the point that you've got to pay for more performance at this point, and the cost savings take a long, long time to actually come. So, that plus the fact that that's also countered the effects of inflation as well, which I don't think can be done now because inflation has been so huge post-COVID. It is going to end up being more expensive. But I think at the same time, people value gaming as a pastime perhaps more than they did in previous decades, and are willing to pay more for that habit. And you kind of see that in PC. PC has got a lot more expensive, and yet graphics cards, CPUs, all of those components are still shifting in huge volumes. John, what do you think?
I do think that we are going to be looking at an increase in price on all of this, but fundamentally, I think we're just at this point, and this is what I don't understand about a potential PlayStation 6 is like, how do you even pitch a next gen console at this point? Because of because the hardware is no longer really the big limiting factor in terms of game creation, right? Like, new hardware that's more advanced is being created all the time, but like developers can't keep up with this. Games just take too long to make, and so like Rich has said many times, it will probably be the longest cross gen we've ever seen, and I almost have to wonder when the cross gen will end, because at what point will games actually release that couldn't possibly be scaled back to lower end hardware even occur?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, something needs to change into how these games are made, because they're just taking so long to get through now. It's really changed the nature of what consoles are. Like, we've not been here before, where it's like, oh, every game is now 5 to 7 years for these big titles. That is a full console generation now.
Yeah.
It's nuts. So like, let's say you launch a game early on the system, and then by the time your next one comes out, maybe the next system's out. I don't know. It just creates this problem with selling these things to people, like having people trust in the systems they already own. I don't know, man. It's something I've been thinking about a lot, and I don't really have any answers on it yet. It's just, I really don't see how you can say, like, here's the PlayStation 6, it does all this, but like, how do you meaningfully differentiate that from what we have? I'll be curious to see what they come up with, and how can you do it in a way that's actually like financially feasible for developers and consumers alike.
I don't know, Alex. The Microsoft solution is basically to become a PC, effectively.
Yeah, which remains to be seen how good that product is, and how if it transitions those people from the one market segment to the other. I'm all doubting that, as I said earlier, at the moment, in spite of it looking interesting. Like John, though, I'm wondering, like, how do you like excite people for a PS6? And somehow you have to create like because if it's the cross gen so long, games are going to be coming out on both devices simultaneously: the PlayStation 5, the PS5 Pro, and the PlayStation 6,
and the handheld.
and the handheld, and you're going to have to somehow excite them specifically to transition from potentially a PS5 to a PS6. And, if the same game is coming out for so long and you already have limits on fidelity based on game development, I mean, you say like, oh, this is now the path traced game version of it. I find that compelling as a PC user, but I don't know if random person goes, oh yeah, the lighting's better. I don't know what they do. I get excited about that stuff, but I don't know if some other person does. And I think it is a much tougher sell. We also had a very similar discussion when PS5 Pro was launching, where before PSSR was part of the discussion, we were always kind of like, if it's only marginally more powerful, what is the interest in this device going to be about? So we're going to probably end up having more of this conversation in the future until, Sony gives us more information. But I think that is actually a really cool talking point.